This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!
Hello, everybody. It's time for more Law Light, brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtree, FWHlegal.com. We are situated once again at the best place in town to get breakfast, Dee's Diner.
The one and the only.
Man.
That was horrible.
It's too early for that, PJ.
It's early. That's why my sense of humor hasn't kicked in yet.
Well, that is your sense of humor, I think, and it has kicked in wonderfully.
Touche.
Again, it's too cool to have the ceiling fans on here, but if for any other reason at all you don't trust us, you have to come check out the ceiling fan configuration at Dee's Diner, located on East 4th Street here in Owensboro, Kentucky. These people are wonderful. Nina is our server again. We've had her both times we've come in for the podcast. And man, she is like a fly, man.
She's on it.
She is on it. And
you must have left her a really good tip last time.
I think I did. I hope I did. She'll get one today for sure.
Perfect.
But it's a busy place here in the morning. The parking lot was full. We were worried about getting a table, but we got one back in the corner in the back room. If you've ever been to Dee's Diner, there's kind of a front area and a back area, and we're sitting in the back area. Just to let everyone know our plans as it relates to Dee's Diner is every other Thursday we are here live. And so, what are you doing?
They have the little advertisement on the table. It's Dee's Specialty French Toasts. And I was looking at that. They have a banana French toast. I'm not a big fan of bananas, but what caught my eye was the deep-fried peanut butter and jelly French toast.
Wow. Well, it's too late. You ordered a cheese omelet with gravy and biscuits and all kinds of stuff.
All right, so much for my diet.
This is all you're allowed to eat today.
I know. Well, I'm joining a gym so I can start working out. That's the plan.
Which one are you joining? You gotta join where Missy and I are.
Which one do you? Or which one?
Owensboro Athletic, OAC over.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, I see you got a little a card there on your keychain.
Owensboro Athletic Club. It's it's over by Don Moore with where like Big Lots and Dollar Tree is. You know where I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's in there. It's nice.
Okay.
I mean, it's very affordable.
It's where
Edge Body
Boot Camp used.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, what I was saying before you distracted us with the French toast is that
they also have Fruity Pebbles French toast.
Okay. If you do this one more time, I'm quitting today's podcast. Oh, here's our food. Nope, it's fake. She came right at us and then took a hard left.
Psych. Don't do that to my stomach.
Today's the 21st, which means on the 28th, which we have a special guest coming the 28th.
We do.
And then the next, which would be the first Thursday in May, we will be live, and that would be, I think, the 4th or the 5th. Mm-hmm. We will be here. Okay, and if anybody wants to come, we're going to start bringing some mugs and some cups and some pens and eventually some T-shirts. So we just want to, and we're going to start putting on Facebook, reminding people that we're going to be at Dee's Diner when we're here, because we want to make sure that people, not just us, that if you've never been here, man, it is the place for breakfast in Owensboro.
Yeah, so their food is really, really good.
It really
Speaking of T-shirts, we should get like one of those T-shirt cannons, and then randomly during those episodes, we should just shoot T-shirts at people from across the room.
This room is way too small for a T-shirt cannon.
I don't go to many sporting events, so I don't know what
we would probably take the baby out over there, and look at. I mean, it would knock that baby carrier.
I'm not talking about shooting it at babies.
Well, you said a cannon, and
we shoot them at grown-ups.
It would get caught in the ceiling fan configuration.
Yeah, that's true.
But all right. Well, earlier, actually, it was at the end of last week or over the weekend, you sent me a very interesting article. In fact, after you sent it, I got a notification. I get notifications of interesting jury verdicts across Kentucky, or any jury verdicts. They send us out notices about them.
Right.
But in northern Kentucky, there was a very interesting jury verdict that was entered by a jury. So we're not talking about a settlement here. We're talking about this case was actually tried to a jury. The jury heard the evidence, and the jury awarded this fellow $450,000.
Yeah.
Now, do you want to kind of give the background of the case and what you recall about it?
Sure. Well, first of all, I want to say that this was brought to my attention by John.
Okay, so John and our John Bennett.
Yeah, John. This was, of course, before he flipped backwards in his chair and scared the entire office.
That's how we're going to end the show. Let's talk about John and his inability to stay in the chair.
So anyway, with this individual, I'll be honest, I did not commit the name to memory. I suck at remembering names.
That's okay.
So he had, he worked in a technology, something diagnostics, technology type building. It was like an IT thing. Anyway, he, I guess his birthday was coming up, and something had been said to him about a birthday party being thrown, and he told his supervisor that he did not want a party thrown for him. And supposedly or allegedly, the supervisor forgot, so the place was decorated and a birthday party was thrown for him anyways. Well, unbeknownst to his employers, he suffered from severe anxiety. And the whole purpose of him saying, I don't want a birthday party, was because he didn't want to have a situation where he was going to be triggered.
Well, let me stop you right there. When he told the supervisor, I remember reading that the supervisor just said, hey, it was in one ear, out the other. I just totally forgot.
Right.
But
now,
did he tell him that it was anxiety?
No.
He just said he didn't want.
Yeah, according to the company's attorney, he never said anything to them about having severe anxiety.
So they had no idea.
So they didn't know. But he did request that they do not throw a birthday party. Right. So then they did anyways, and he apparently had a meltdown. He left, went to his car, had a panic attack, a severe panic attack, and then came back in and I guess voiced his displeasure about them throwing a birthday party for him anyways. And then, of course, he was ultimately fired based on his behavior from having a panic attack.
Well, and it was that there was a potential risk for.
Well, they're saying that I guess his behavior led them to believe that he could be dangerous
to the company.
Yeah, to like his fellow employees, right? And so he was subsequently fired. Now this was in 2019, so it was before COVID. So apparently because of the type of it was like a medical company, medical technology company. So when the pandemic hit, they became like essential workers, and apparently a whole bunch of their employees got like 300% raises and things because of that. Well, he missed out on all that. And then he believes he was wrongfully fired, then the lawsuit, and he won.
The verdict of $450,000, right? $450,000. A lot of that, I can't remember if the breakdown was in there, but a big part of it was for the wages, because they had significant growth as a company and paid out bonuses and commissions or something like that. And so a big part of it, I know some of it was pain and suffering.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I want to say the article that I read it said 300,000 of it was pain and suffering.
Right. So he had pain and suffering, and then he had loss of earnings. Just to kind of refresh people, because we've discussed this on the podcast before, the article that I read ended by saying that an appeal was certainly likely. The verdict was just rendered within the last 10, 15 days.
Yeah.
That means that they do have, from the date that the trial order is entered or the judgment's entered on the verdict. So what happens is the jury will return a verdict, and there could be motions to ask the court to enter a verdict notwithstanding, a judgment notwithstanding the verdict. But thank you, Nina. I've got Diet Mountain Dew out the wazoo over here.
Yeah, you do. You've got 2.5 glasses now.
Yeah.
At least it's diet.
Those are big glasses, though.
I know. So that's technically like one regular Mountain Dew.
It's a liter.
At least.
So anyhow, back to this. They can appeal. There's a deadline for notifying that they're going to appeal. A lot of times, people say they're going to appeal to try to just run the value of the verdict down. So there could be settlement. Let's say this guy says, "Look, I don't want this to be hung out on appeal for 2 more years. I'm gonna, let's talk to them, and they can get that $430,000 or $450,000 verdict. Reduce some just because the guy wants his money now." Or there could be some legitimate legal arguments that need to be raised on appeal. I don't know what rulings the court rendered along the way, because what happens a lot of times in these cases is that they rule along the way on evidence, like the evidence that the jury gets to hear, the evidence the jury doesn't get to hear. They make rulings on what the jury instructions are going to be, in other words, how they're supposed to be worded. And those are areas that are very ripe for appeal. If they didn't give the right instruction to the jury, and here's our breakfast. There's my. All right, thank you. Boy,
Thank you.
Looks good, man. Look at that. That's fancy cheese on top of that.
I know, that's a cheese omelet.
So, but anyhow, so it'll be interesting to see if they. I mean, the article led me to believe that there was going to be an appeal, didn't you?
I don't remember that part, honestly.
At the very end, the company's attorney said that the appeal was very likely. So we'll see what happens. What are you smelling there?
Well, I was making sure that it wasn't like hot sauce instead of ketchup.
Yeah. You put a lot of ketchup on your...
Not a lot, but...
Looks like you're having problems getting any. There you go.
There we go.
So let's talk about this. Anxiety and panic attacks are a very real thing.
Right.
But now, my feeling on this is if he was not specific, if he was not specific on why he didn't want the party, okay? In other words, if he just went and said, "Hey, I don't want a party," that's something that is easily forgettable by a supervisor. I'm a supervisor at work.
Right.
We have, I manage all of our employees. If somebody came and said, "Hey, I don't want a party," it depends on how long before his birthday it was that he told me that. But if somebody came or, and said, "Hey, I don't want a party," and it was 3 weeks ago, I'd probably forget it, And so a lot in my mind was how specific he was when he told him why he didn't want a party. Because, look, if you do tell him it's because you have anxiety, and then it's a lot more like you should remember that, right?
Because then it kind of becomes a liability issue, right? Because their attorney said that he never let them know that he suffered from severe anxiety. So my question is if you suffer from a mental health issue such as severe anxiety, are you obligated to let your employer know? Like, are you supposed to do that? Or
if it's going to influence or affect the work, then I think you should be obligated to tell them about anything. Like, "Hey, I'm going through a divorce. Just wanted you to know. It may require me to be out some for hearings." Or, "Hey, I'm having some medical tests run," and that, those kinds of things allow employers to accommodate and allow employers to work around, and it helps with production and things like that, right?
Right.
So now the details, when it comes into behavioral health or things like that, that's a fine line. You have the obligation to talk. So an employer is entitled to know about anything that would restrict your ability to do the work. For example, in a lot of plants, if you have an injury that could cause you to hurt someone else, or not be able to do your job, and it create a dangerous condition on the workplace, you have to tell them, "Look, I can't lift more than 20 pounds.
Right.
You have to report your restrictions. To the degree that severe anxiety is a restriction and it's going to influence your work, you do need to report it.
The first thing, I don't disagree with you. But the first thing that pops into my head is that the fact that he had severe anxiety to where it affected his work whatsoever didn't seem to be an issue until suddenly it was like a trigger situation where he says, "Don't throw me a birthday party." The second that I had my panic attack, which caused my anxiety issues, and I started getting put on medicine about it. I mean, you know how I am. I'm an open book. I'll talk about anything. I'm not embarrassed or ashamed or anything like that. So, I mean, it doesn't bother me to talk about it. But I do know some people who are more private, and they don't like talking about those issues because for whatever reason they are embarrassed or ashamed of the situation, especially because it's something that's out of their control, right? Did that affect his ability to do his job? Because it doesn't seem like it was an issue prior to this, since they had no clue. Now, I don't know how long I don't remember how long, or if it even said how long he worked there.
Yeah, I don't know. This company seemed to be a company, just based on what I read, that's kind of on the cutting edge of employment morale. They seem to be like a really up-and-up company, And so, I'm sure that a lot of companies that are, that way, they do make sure that their employees know they're important to them and that their birthday is important and that kind of thing, So it's kind of built into the morale,
right?
Boosting. I mean, the most pivotal part of that case to me is if you tell someone you don't want to party. That is something that a lot of people say just because they don't want oh, come on, you don't have to throw me a party. We hear that all the time. And that's one of those things that's like, oh man, no, you don't have to do that. And it's just like, oh, he's saying it because he doesn't want, he doesn't want the attention. He's just a nice, humble guy. I mean, you hear that a lot. No, y'all don't have to do anything for my birthday. Don't make a big deal out of it, right? Especially the older we get. Don't we say that more often?
Oh, yeah.
Don't make a big deal out of my birthday.
Well, the older I get, the more I realize that
so
birthdays aren't that important.
I think if I was on the jury, if I was sitting on that jury, in my mind, analytically, I would say, come on. A lot of people say, come on, I don't need a birthday. And this employer had no idea that throwing a birthday would be a trigger to something that could happen.
Right.
If the guy said, look, I just tend to really not respond well when people put me in the focus of attention because of some anxiety I deal with, then I would say, all right, company, you've been warned that this guy has anxiety. But just a statement, come on, don't do me a birthday party. So I don't know how that evidence came out. I don't know how it was presented, I don't know those details. And that's pivotal because if the company had any inkling, I would have a hard time putting liability on a company if they didn't have any idea that the guy had anxiety or panic attacks. It would really be hard for me. And then to put that much, my goodness, he went out and sat in his car and came back in, and they deemed that he could be dangerous to other people by the way he reacted,
Right.
And so that's a big verdict.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think there's a lot of details of the case that we aren't privy to because we're only told so much through the media. The one thing that I did find interesting, one of the things that they said, or part of their issue, I guess, was that he was stealing the joy from his coworkers.
I saw that, yeah.
That, I don't know.
Well, that's what made me, I think that was the statement in the article that made me think this place must be a real upbeat place to work for. Like, they must really just kind of have a new way of looking at the workplace, and I pictured it as somewhere with the ergonomical chairs and
right.
the just a bunch of new kind of phase type employment to kind of cater to the Generation X type, Z type people that are not quite used to showing up every day at 8 and leaving at 5, that kind of mosey in, do a little work here, we do a little work,
right.
That kind of thing. I may be totally wrong about that, but the fact that it was, I saw that statement, the stealing the joy from other workers, that made me wonder.
I don't know, that seemed like the least important thing that should have been on your mind during the situation.
Right. I'm going to fire somebody because, let's face it, the decision to let that person go was probably a decision where the supervisors got together and they probably said, this guy's weird. He doesn't fit. Let's get rid of him.
I agree.
And then, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I think something like that must have happened. But it's interesting, and it's something that's worthy of being discussed here because, number one, it's a Kentucky verdict. This isn't something that happened in another state. This is Kentucky jurisprudence. These are, and that's what we do. We try cases all the time. Now, I don't even know. One of the things when I was reading it, I was like, if this guy would have called our office and this summary would have been the intake, I don't know if I would have met with him. I'm being honest. I was like, oh, come on, dude, really? No, I'm being serious. We get tons of calls every day. And man, sometimes and I'm always on the border, like, do I meet with this person? Do I talk with this person? What do I do with this? Because you hear all kinds of factual circumstances and you get calls on all kinds of stuff. When I was a young lawyer, we got a phone call where a lady swore up and down that her mashed potatoes at Kentucky Fried Chicken had cotton in them. And I was like, come on. Cotton? How does cotton make its way into mashed potatoes?
I saw a video a while back where they recorded their food, and it was, I don't know if it was mashed potatoes, but it was something like that. And they were spreading it apart, and it had this like fibrous kind of a look to it, so it looked like there was something added to it to make it look fluffier. And that's what they were talking about in there. They're like, I think they're adding, I don't know what, but it had like a fiber kind of.
Well, I got a phone call about this lady telling me she thought there was cotton in her mashed potatoes, and I was like,
yep.
You just dropped your eggs on your lap.
I laid it on my leg.
So
I think that's still clean enough. Yeah.
Right back into your mouth. Yeah. Anyhow, so, I was like, well, would I even have interviewed this guy and gotten his case? I don't know, and maybe not. But definitely the attorney must have done a really good job trying the case and putting together a theory of liability and the way he discussed it. So good for him, and we'll see what happens on appeal.
What you just said kind of goes along with, and I'm pretty sure the most recent blurb that we put up on our website kind of dealt with that you took on this person's case, and correct me if I'm wrong, when it seemed like nobody else really would, and you ended up getting a really good verdict based off of trying the case.
Right.
So that maybe that's the situation here where he went to several different places,
and
finally someone said, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens.
I've had a lot of cases like that. I had a guy that came in on a medical malpractice case the day before his statute of limitations ran. And I filed it, and when I filed it, we reached a settlement in that case, and that guy had said that he had been to 4 or 5 other lawyers, and the reason that it was so late in the game was because that's going to make your editing fun.
Oh, yeah. There's these little kids over there just slapping the table.
Yeah, and they're all looking right at us like, I wonder if this is bothering them. It's not bothering us at all. We're not talking about it over here.
Not at all.
Not at all. Well, let's talk about something else.
Okay.
People in the office that have a hard time sitting in their chair.
I don't know who you're talking about. But.
So I didn't witness this. In fact, one check, yeah. I didn't witness this. In fact, believe it or not, I didn't hear it, but everybody else in the building must have heard it because they came down and Amy came out. Everybody was like, what was that?
Yeah,
what was that loud noise?
Even Michelle and sent that email out.
Right, and that was, there you go, touchdown. That's we're sitting in the office on Monday.
Yeah, it was Monday.
You were in there, so I need you to tell me what happened.
I was sitting there editing, and all of a sudden, I hear, boom! And I mean, it felt like an earthquake in the room, and then all I heard was, like that. And I thought, at that point, I kind of assumed that he had fallen somehow. So I get up and I go around the partition, and John is just laying on the floor, and he's holding the back of his head, upon which I assumed, so he's got like, there's a cabinet behind him. I figured he had hit his head on the cabinet, and it's a pretty solid wood little cabinet. His laptop was laying on his chest. He had papers everywhere from where I guess his arms had come out, and he like knocked his suitcase and stuff off the table. I was kind of stunned because I didn't know really what to do. I'm still kind of Yeah, it was. But I mean, I felt really bad. Usually in situations like that, my initial reaction is to want to like make a joke.
Right.
But I was pretty certain that he was severely injured somehow. And so I didn't do it. And then all of a sudden the door pops open and Tyler's staring at me and then looks down at John. And then Tara runs in behind him and she's looking at me. I go, I think he's really hurt. But I had already reached down and like taken stuff that had fallen on him off and like put it on the table and taken his laptop from him and everything. Yeah, I don't know. I felt really bad for him.
Well, did you ask him how it happened? That's what I want to know. Has he ever explained what happened?
Yes. So he props his feet up on his desk and leans back in his chair all the time. And I guess this particular time he did it just right, and somehow the legs from the chair slipped out from under him, I guess. And he said it happened so fast, like, that he didn't even realize what was going on until he had hit the floor. And he didn't hit his head on the shelf, but he hit it on the floor. And of course, I'm sitting there asking him, like, are you okay? I kept asking him, are you okay? And he just was going, ah. It was like he couldn't talk. And that's when I thought, okay, he's probably at least got a concussion. Then I told him to talk to Chris about workman's comp.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
That was the joke that was the one joke. Once I realized that he wasn't going to die, I made that joke.
You should have said, oh, this has caused me severe anxiety, and run out to your car. It was your opportunity. It was your opportunity, PJ, to
You're right.
to strike it big, you know.
I have to invent a hot tub time machine.
But let me tell you something. I don't think that you would be a danger to our workplace. So don't think you're going to get by with faking an anxiety attack in my office.
I don't have to fake an anxiety attack, but yeah. I felt really bad for him, though.
Yeah. Is he okay? I mean, does he have a knot on his head or anything?
By the end of the day, he was like, yeah, I'm really starting to feel this in my back. I asked him how old he was. He's 34. I think he's pushing 35. And I told him once you hit 35, that's when it all goes downhill. Because I remember, like, for some reason, before I hit 35, if I fell, I was fine. But if I fall now, I lay there for like 10 minutes trying to figure out if I'm still breathing.
Oh, really?
It's bad, yeah. I fell in the bathtub a couple years ago. Peter Griffin style, like one arm and one leg were hanging outside the bathtub, and I just laid there because I was trying to figure out, okay, am I hurt? What is hurt? Did I break anything? Do I feel any pains or aches? And then with it just being a bathtub, I don't fit in my bathtub very well because I don't take baths.
Right.
Yeah, it got real quiet in here. All of a sudden when I started talking about
you don't take baths,
Yeah.
everybody looked over here at you.
Everybody's like, I can tell that guy doesn't take baths. But
I had a case where a guy was taking a shower at the Executive Inn, and a ceiling tile above a ceiling tile, those ceiling thing,
right,
that was above him, fell on him while he was shampooing, and it startled him. He thought he was being attacked from above. He slips, and he fractures a vertebrae and herniates a disc in his back.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And we had a case against the Executive Inn about that.
Wow.
I can't tell you his name, obviously. I know it, but I got to protect his name and his confidentiality.
How'd that go?
It was a very decent settlement. Yeah, we found out that they knew that the tub above it had been leaking, and that they hadn't done anything about it, and they just kept replacing the ceiling tiles. But when those things get wet, they get like oatmeal, and then they drop. And
right.
He's like, it was kind of funny having him explain to me, what was going through his mind and stuff. I mean, it was, but anyhow, yeah, I had that case. I had another case that was really interesting while we're talking about some funny cases. I don't know why this one just came to mind, but it was another person that was startled. Have I ever told you the story about the lady that came to see me who had gotten locked in a portapott and the portapott got moved?
No.
Yeah.
What a nightmare.
So this lady had gone to Kentucky Kingdom as a mentor on a field trip. Thank you, Nina. And
she stole my last bite of toast.
You didn't need that toast.
I didn't. She just did me a favor, not realizing it.
So this lady goes as a mentor, kind of like on a field trip with a bunch of elementary students. And so they had been at Kentucky Kingdom all day. And as the day was wrapping up, the kids were walking. They had the buses parked, back away in the parking lot. And she noticed, as she was coming up on the buses, she noticed that there was this line of porta-potts. And if you've ever been to the backside of like Freedom Hall and the fairgrounds over there, they do a lot of different things every day. You may have horse expedition coming in or expo coming in, or
right.
whatever. She thought, you know what, it is kind of a long bus ride home. I'm going to use the bathroom. So she said, I was not aware that there was any front end loaders or forklifts around. I wasn't aware there was a semi-flatbed truck around. But the short of it was, she goes in there and sits down to use the bathroom, and the next thing she knows is this big bang like this. And then she said she could tell she was being lifted up, and they tilted the thing back, and all that blue nasty stuff started spilling out.
Oh, no.
And she was banging on it going, let me out of here, let me out of here. And nobody could hear her, of course.
Right.
And so she ends up getting loaded onto the flatbed truck, and she's banging on it, but nobody knows. She's trying to tilt it over, So they loaded like 5 or 6 more onto this truck, and she could hear it, but she couldn't get out. What she goes, thinking about it, all I had done was open the door. But
so she wasn't actually like trapped in there. She was just freaking out.
She freaked out, right? And when she finally they moved. She got out when she finally got taken to another area and dropped. They put them down in another area at the fairgrounds, and she was covered in stuff, and it was. But I did have that case as well. So.
I mean, it's anybody who's a fan of Jackass. Yeah. That's the first thing that pops into my head.
Oh, you should have heard this lady telling the story. I can't. Oh my God! She was like, "Let me out of here, you mother effers!"
I probably would have been saying the same
banging
thing.
the door.
Actually,
no. You know what? I do remember when they moved those things. They put a bar through there. If you've ever seen, they've got to keep the doors from opening and closing while they move them. So they shut that thing down, and then she said she heard that, and she thought somebody was just trying to get in, and she had the door thing, and then she heard bang like that, and then she was being lifted up. She could not get out. That's right. But anyhow,
I wonder how often that happens. You think they would check to make sure?
Well, that was my case. I'm like, how hard is it to open the door?
Yeah.
And also, I told him, I was like, doesn't it have the thing on it that says red or green?
Right.
If it's on red, that means potentially there's someone in there.
Yeah.
It's been, and so.
Well, here's why I'm on her side automatically, because other people's feces and things are in that.
Yes, it's terrible.
So she's getting other people's stuff on her. No telling what else is in there.
Oh yeah,
her
account.
Yeah,
her
she's
account
got my vote.
Well, she got a good result too.
I bet.
But anyhow,
you can get really sick from that.
Two interesting cases there to kind of wrap up this episode.
Right.
I've got a ton of them. I always think of and I don't think of them until something triggers it. No, the guy being.
How many porta potty cases have you picked up?
That's the only one. I don't advertise porta potty cases.
We should put that on the side of the building.
Yeah. Well, listen, real quick as we wrap this one up, we want to thank everybody at Dee's Diner again for having us, allowing us to come in to record our podcast. They're wonderful here. They take care of you. They feed you well. And it's just a super opportunity. So if you've never tried Dee's Diner, it's a great place to come for breakfast and lunch. So give them a try. We appreciate their partnership with the podcast and with the firm. And until next time, this has been Law Lite, brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtry, FWHlegal.com. Check us out on all platforms of social media. And if you need a lawyer, we're here to help. Thank you.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery of a sham, of a mockery of a travesty of 2 mockeries of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!